Marketing here at Morningstar Living, and welcome on this very wet and not very spring-like day to our beautiful Moravian Hall Square campus. It's beautiful in all weather, so we don't mind the rain because then the place is beautiful and flowering, so we're good with that. For those of you who arrived early, you have seen our dream team in action. We've had a couple of technical glitches this morning, so we are working through them. We will manage without the projector this morning, we think. And thankfully, these are not remote control birds. They don't rely on electricity and technology. They are the real thing, so thank goodness for that. Alrighty, so we're thrilled to finally have the Wildlands Conservancy here. As you know, we had this program originally scheduled for January. Unfortunately, with the snow at that time, we've had to reschedule, but that's okay. And then today we are happy to welcome Lisa Bell, who is an educator with the Wildlands Conservancy. Lisa has brought with her some special guests, and we will meet them during the presentation. Today we'll learn about the distinguishing characteristics and adaptations that help identify birds of prey and how they impact their position on the food web. So just before I introduce Lisa, can I please ask you to reach into your pockets, your purses, and silence your cell phones? Alrighty, thank you so much. And please put your hands together in warm welcome for Lisa Bell. Thank you.
I am on. Can you hear me? No? Yes? Excellent. Fantastic. So, yes, has anybody ever been to Wildlands Conservancy? So I won't talk that loud. Oh, they just turned the volume up because now I'm talking really softly and you can still hear me. Wildlands Conservancy, we're located in Emmaus. We are the largest land trust for Lehigh County and the neighboring areas, neighboring counties. I think it is 65,000, 70,000 acres that we maintain and protect, that you'll never see a warehouse on or a condominium complex or shopping center. We're keeping it wild. Pennsylvania is now 60% forested, which is a recovery from what happened, of course, 200-300 years ago when there was massive deforestation. It's a whole nother story. But yeah, 60% forested for the entire state, which I think is a pretty impressive statistic for the size of Pennsylvania. So we want to protect that. That's what we do. And part of what we do too is we go out into the community and try to educate people on the wildlife that need those wild open spaces and those places to live and exist so that you can see them, I can see them, our children can see them, and generations to come can see them. So we like to introduce them to you because we do believe that once you've met them up close and personal, it's a little bit more it hits home a little bit more when you can see the animal that you're helping protect. So I did bring with me today, and I did do a PowerPoint, but that's okay. I have my notes from the PowerPoint, which is what I'm going to read from. I have with me today a red-tailed hawk, a barred owl, a screech owl, an eastern screech owl, and then, just for fun, a pigeon, because that would be a food source for them, wouldn't it? So pigeons are a food source for them, but the pigeon itself is also a mighty bird and very adaptable and really pretty amazing. On the table on your way out, if you want, I do have 2 skulls because I'm going to be talking about some of the facial construction of both the red-tailed hawk and the owl. This is not a barred owl. This is a great horned owl skull, but nevertheless, you can see the differences. I do ask, though, that you be very gentle and careful when touching them. I noticed the red-tailed hawk skull is cracked. So I'm just going to get started, honestly, talking a little bit about the predators of Pennsylvania. 436 species of wild birds, 285 that are regular residents here, 285 different species of birds that are regular, 129 of them come and visit. This is all from the Pennsylvania Game Commission. So we're going to take a look at predators. So these are birds of prey, of course, with the exception of the pigeon. There are 22 common predators, ranging from hawks, owls, falcons, eagles, and vultures. So we're going to take a look at the owls first, okay? So owls not related to hawks. Pardon me, I need my reading glasses for some of this. Although they're considered raptors by some, so you may have heard that. And they are clearly predators. They lead a very heavy predatory lifestyle. So we're going to meet a screech owl and the barred owl, which are both ambassadors of the Conservancy. So the first one I'm going to bring out, his name is Sunny. Sundu is his name. And he's one of the largest owls in Pennsylvania, the barred owl. So I do ask that you can ooh and awe, but keep it soft. This is their least favorite thing to do, getting in the car and going on long rides. Okay, Sunny, come on. I know, I'm sorry. This way, baby, this way. Okay, gotta put your wings down. Put your wings down. Come on, ready? Okay, let's go meet people. Let's let them see you. And I'm gonna stand right over here. Nope, I know. And I don't want anybody to worry. The bird is tethered to me, so he can't take off. And I'm gonna put him right here on his pee pad, because this is where I have to have the birds. The carpet won't survive. So everybody, this is a barred owl, okay? This is one of the most vocal owls here in the Pennsylvania, and you'll recognize them because they have that hoot. They do a group of 4 hoots. So some people think it sounds like, who cooks for you? So that's sort of a little joke, but it does kind of sound like that. They live in most of the United States, east of the Mississippi, across Canada, and they are a large, look how beautiful this bird is. And you can see by the bars of markings on the feathers. I'm going to turn him around so you guys can see his back. Is that okay, Sunny, if I turn you around? Isn't he glorious? He's lovely. I know. I'm sorry. I know. Very sorry. So while most owls have yellow eyes, the barred owl does not. The barred owl has these big, brown, soulful eyes. You okay? Okay. They have a circular face. Owls have that circular disc face, which is really important for their hearing. It aids in their hearing, much like a satellite dish. So it's good for sound. You'll notice most owls, if not all owls, have that sort of rounder face. Some are a little bit more apparent than others. They have that beautiful hooked beak of theirs, which is really good for tearing at their food, which is really important for them. And this bird is non-migratory, so he's going to stay here. And if you have property, or if you've visited property and you see some barred owls on your property, you're probably going to see them for the remainder of their lives, because they will not leave. They won't go very far from where they live. So they're very sedentary, but they have extended their range a little bit here. They're nocturnal, and you're going to, they're going to hunt. They can hunt during the day, and they can call during the day, but they are a nocturnal predator. So they're going to do their eating mostly at night. These guys actually do get fed in the evening, and they eat under the cover of dark. That's when they like to do their eating, unlike some of the other birds, the hawk, who's going to hunt during the daytime. She's a daytime hunter, and I'll point out how the skull looks different for that. So owls, as you know, eat their prey whole. They're going to eat everything. And he's going to eat a variety of foods. He's going to he'll live near marshlands too. He eats fish, he eats amphibians, he eats rodents and chicks and small mammals. He's going to eat pretty much whatever he can catch. Is that right? And he's going to eat the whole thing. But he doesn't want the whole thing. His body's not going to take the whole thing, but the bones, the feathers, everything. And then When he's done taking what he wants, his body is going to compact it. He's going to cough up something we call a pellet. So owl pellets, which I should have brought, and I forgot to bring an owl pellet. It looks like a squished up brown cotton ball, but it's really dense. And inside, if you were to break one up and take a look at the insides of an owl pellet, you'd be able to know exactly what that owl ate and what that animal was. It's very interesting, actually. They will tear apart their food too, though, hence the beak, but mostly they're going to eat all of it. So they're excellent hunters. They have a varied diet. They'll eat almost any kind of meat, as I mentioned. So here's some of the animals that they're going to control for you on your property: mice, chipmunks, rabbits, small birds, amphibians, reptiles, crawfish, and even earthworms. So they're good rodent control. People often don't want to have birds of prey on their property because they have bird feeders, and I've heard some people express being unhappy that the birds of prey are taking advantage of the small birds at their bird feeder. But you kind of want to have them all around because circle of life and all. So its wings can turn pink if he eats a lot of shrimp. That's from the Audubon Society, which I think is kind of interesting. So much like we know that the flamingo is not born pink, it's born white. It is actually a white bird, but it turns pink because of what it eats. So that's kind of interesting. So these guys are so proliferous in some areas that conversations have been had about how to try to reduce their numbers. They are crossing into the territories of other endangered owls. So they do live near swamps, riparian areas, forested areas, and they're highly skilled at maneuvering through dense forests, unlike some of the other birds that we'll see. I'm going to just put my arm down a little bit and rest. He's gorgeous to look at. He's known as the tree climbing owl for some reason, according to the Audubon Society, and they do have a maniacal sound that comes out of them. You've probably all heard them. If you've ever been hiking at night or ever been hiking in the woods, you've probably heard a barred owl. They have a grip strength of over 200 psi. Children and teenagers, we tend to do this thing for them when we are showing them to children. We have them squeeze their little fists as hard as they can. That's about 50 psi. So he's 200 psi. The great horned owl can squeeze apparently at 500 psi, crushing bones in its talons. So he is very strong, hence my glove. And he's got his nice, yeah, I know, oh my gosh. They have feathered feet, very unique feet, and they have silent flight. So owls, for the most part, cannot be heard when they're swooping down to catch their prey. It's pretty impressive. They have incredible vision, and even in the blinding snow from great distances, from way up in a tree, it's going to see that little tiny mouse crawling just underneath the layer of snow, and it's going to be able to swoop down, catch its food, and that mouse will never have heard it coming. So they're really, really great predators. They can live about 10 years in the wild, 20 years in captivity. Little fun fact that I found, historians believe that Harriet Tubman used the barred owl's call as a signal for people that were seeking to use the Underground Railroad. So I think that was kind of cool, so I wanted to add that. Does anybody have any questions about the barred owl? Because I'm going to keep an eye on the clock, and I know we're going to do a Q&A afterwards, but yes?
What's the distance that they can see, like, for prey?
I'm going to grab my...
Question is, what is the distance they can see to catch their prey?
You know, that's a very good question. I don't know the exact distance, but I have been told that it's equal to greater than a football field. Yeah, they're pretty incredible, which must really bother him that I'm this close. They do have 3 eyelids too. I know I see other questions, but they have a nictitating membrane. It's a 3rd eyelid. Owls are really neat because when owls sleep, they sleep with only half their brain turned off. And that little nictitating membrane It's like see-through, it's clear, but it helps keep their eyes clear of debris, but they don't have to have their eyes open to see. And when they rest, you can see the nictitating membrane will come down a little bit. But they do sleep with half their brains on and half their brains asleep because it keeps them. Yeah, and I was going to bring this up when I bring the screech owl out, but as far as owls go, I like to tell the kids owls can't turn their heads totally around. I'm sure you all know that. But they can turn their heads about 270 degrees. And the reason why they can do that is because they have extra vertebrae. I think most birds actually have extra vertebrae. They have about 14 compared to our 7. So whereas we could really only go left and right over our shoulders, they can go and almost look completely behind them. The reason why that helps so much for them in the wild is because they cannot move their eyeballs. So whereas you and I can move our eyes and our heads, owls cannot do that. I don't think birds of prey can do that. And one of the benefits of not being able to move your eyeball in your head is it steadies the camera. So it's kind of like a built-in tripod. And that also makes their vision just that much more precise. So in order to be able to see danger or prey, they can very quickly and very effectively just move their heads all the way around their bodies, just not their eyeballs. The skull here, you'll be able to see the sclerotic ring. It's a bone in the skull that sort of keeps that eyeball in place. There's a couple other things going on in there, but yeah, the sclerotic ring is pretty impressive because it's something that the other birds you can see don't have, or at least with the red-tailed hawk. So was there one more? Yes, somebody had a question about the barred owl.
Sonny is beautiful. What happened to him?
Okay, thank you for asking. Most of our birds that we have at the Conservancy, because we are not a rescue, we are not a sanctuary, we are not a rehabilitation center. They come to us because we are in need of some educators, some co-teachers, and so they're offered to us by rehabilitation facilities. He was injured in a car accident. Most of them are hit by trucks and vehicles and has a damaged wing. So he can't fly. He was deemed non-releasable by the powers that be. So he would have been, yeah, so we took him, right? Yeah. And he's a baby, and his partner over back at the Conservancy, his name is Rembrandt, and Rembrandt's very old, but Rembrandt and Sonny have bonded, and they spend a lot of time together. And it's really very lovely. And he's really a very gentle bird when it comes to owls. So I'm going to go ahead and put him away. I'm going to grab the next owl. And I want you to just compare the size because this next one's very different. You ready to go? Okay, everybody? Oh, no. Come here. Up. Thank you so much. Ow. Okay, ready? I'll put you back. Okay, back. Thank you so much. There you go. Okay. You ready? You can say it louder. It's fine. Yeah. And he's so tiny, actually, that I'm not worried about him pooping on the carpet. He'll probably just go potty if he goes potty on me, which is all right. Well, then where do you want to go? Hold on. Okay. This is an eastern screech owl. So this is Bartram. Bartram is his name. And a lot of the same things apply. The face. But you can see that he has yellow eyes. He's got that yellow ring around his big, beautiful brown eyes, but he does have that yellow ring, which is something we think of when we think of owls. Bartram is blind in his left eye, so he was deemed non-releasable. You can even see how cloudy his left eye is. Again, I think hit by a car, injured in some way. And the eastern screech owl is the second smallest owl here in this part of the country. There's actually one that's smaller, and it's the saw-whet owl. But the eastern screech owl is pretty tiny. But even though, I know, hold on. Even though he's so tiny, he's, much like his cousins, a fierce predator. So don't let his size confuse you at all. He's got those beautiful little tufts on top of his head, just like the great horned owl, and they really are just tufts of feathers. They're not ears, they're not horns. He manipulates them similar to the way a dog would manipulate his ears, in that when they go down and back, and when they go up, and sometimes he sticks them out to the side. He really doesn't want to be here, but we're gonna keep him comfortable as best we can. Also, don't worry, he's tethered to me, so he's not going to go anywhere. His eggs are about the size of ping pong balls. This owl, let me put my little barred owl notes away. They come in red morphs, gray, and brown. Those are the three different colorings that you'll tend to find when you see a screech owl. They have a really distinctive call, because their call sounds like a horse whinnying. So they're also very, very vocal, and you can hear them, again, if you go hiking at night around dusk, you'll be able to hear them. They do sound like a horse whinny. That's what it sounds like. They're called the feathered wildcat, and right now he's a little stressed because he's panting, and his ears are back, and he seems very unhappy, but I'm going to try to keep my arm out as much as I can. He's about as strong with his grip as an average child. So an average human child would have the same strength that this owl has in his grip. So they're excellent camouflage. As you can see, much like Sunny, they blend in with the bark of trees. And this little tiny thing, so small, you almost never even see them when they're sitting up in the trees. Sorry, baby. Here, excuse me, folks. I want to, go ahead. We're just going to have to stay like that, okay? Yeah, I know, he's very unhappy right now. He's the most common owl in Pennsylvania, and he lives almost in every woodlot. You're going to find screech owls, eastern screech owls. They live here year-round. Again, they don't migrate. They're going to be here all year. And their numbers are very, very stable, so no one's worried about them at all. They thrive, and they are, what do we call them? I'm so sorry, I'm at a loss for this word. They're opportunistic hunters. So he's going to eat what he can, when he can. He's going to roost in cavities of trees. He's going to take over other birds' homes. He's not going to build his own nest. They don't build nests. Sunny also won't build a nest. I don't know, they don't want to waste their time. They'd rather just take over someone else's house. And that's kind of what they do. And cavities in trees at the Conservancy and a lot of other properties here in the county and neighboring counties, it's wonderful because trees will fall and trees will come down during storms and we leave them. And trees will die, but we leave them. And we leave them because they're a wonderful place for a lot of animals to take up residency. So listen for them if you ever do get out and get to go into the woods. They're all over the place. Yeah, so that's his home. He will attack. It says here that the screech owl is going to attack humans and other predators to defend their nest. So they do that with us when we enter their home. They're very defensive about us entering their nest and taking them. They're carnivorous, again, eating small birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, large insects, and other invertebrates. This little guy can eat an entire chick and a mouse. So again, rodent control. We often forget about that. We complain about the birds being around, but they are good rodent control. Because of their size, though, they have a lot of predators themselves. And so their predators would be not only other big birds, but some mammals like the opossum, raccoons, snakes, crows, and even squirrels and blue jays, which I find interesting. Blue jays are pretty tough. They're a pretty tough bird. So is a crow. Corvids are impressive hunters themselves. So like the barred owl, he's going to mate for life. He's monogamous. He's going to live about 8 to 10 years in the wild with 13 years in captivity with good care. And again, as strong as a small child with a grip strength of about 50 psi. So this is Bartram. And if anybody has any questions about a screech owl, I'm going to take my little info sheet and see if anybody wants to know anything more about this little guy. Yes?
Is there different coloring? Is there different coloring between male and female on these raptors?
No. No, and genetics doesn't really seem to play a role, I don't think, with the different morphs. I have that down. I wanted to make a note of that. I'm sorry, genetics determine the coloring, so it has nothing to do with gender, sex, or geography. They're just going to be whatever color they are. And I think the Western screech owl looks a little bit different. Well, it does look a little different, but also there's different morphs for the Western screech owl as well. Anybody else? Yeah.
You mentioned blue jays were predators.
Yeah.
You often see crazy, well, I think it's crazy stuff like a crow chasing a hawk.
Yes.
Why did this, can you talk about why this?
Well, I will when I'll bring her out. I want to bring her out, the hawk that we have.
Like a smaller bird going after a bird.
Yeah, well, because, corvids hunt in numbers. So should a red-tailed hawk get its talons on a crow, all the other crows are going to come together and try to take down that hawk. And they're pretty successful at that. So they're going to hunt in numbers. The hawks don't hunt in numbers, so they're going to hunt by themselves. But yeah, it depends how they hunt. Corvids are, I'm surprised. We have a crow at the Conservancy. His name is Romeo, and I got to know him over the last year or so. And he's impressive. He's a tough bird. He will hold his own with a lot of the others. Yeah.
How many babies do they have?
You know, I don't think that they're gonna lay a couple of eggs. Yeah, maybe 2 or 3 eggs. We don't breed. We're not licensed to breed, but I know. But yeah, that's about the number of eggs that they'll have. And again, ping pong ball sized, maybe a little bit smaller, around the size of a pigeon's egg. Pigeon's eggs are a little bit more oblong, and theirs is round. It looks just like a ping pong ball, so which is interesting. Let me see if there's anything else here. Also, just like the barred owl. Oh, yes.
Thank you. You said that this bird does not eat squirrels, but it might be a target for a squirrel. Did the other owl, do they eat squirrels? Because
Sure.
they're a nuisance.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank
yes. You're very welcome. Yes. Yeah. And especially if that squirrel's in that tree and gets too close to their home or their young. So that's something to keep an eye out. Yeah, because you're right. Squirrels can be a nuisance for sure.
What happens to a bird? Do their personalities change in any way when they lose a mate?
That's a good question. I know that I want to be careful not to use certain words that maybe some people might not use, but we did have, so Sonny's partner, Rembrandt, does cry out for him when we take Sonny on program. Rembrandt doesn't go out anymore because of his age, and he does have a pretty badly injured wing. It's healed, it's fine. He's old and he's fragile, but he stays there because they're very close and they're very bonded. That being said, we did just recently lose one of our screech owls, Olmsted, but it doesn't seem to have phased Bartram in the least. When I take the hawk from its partner because this female has a male partner, he'll cry out. I'm not quite sure if that's what that means, but they'll survive fine so long as they're cared for properly. I think they'll survive fine. It's a little different than with mammals, who really can suffer the loss of a partner, and like rabbits, who need to have more than one because rabbits live together. So it's a good question. I'm sorry I don't have more of an educated answer for you. I am not an ornithologist. I apologize. So I don't know the answer to that. He's also got that sclerotic ring, by the way, folks, that keeps his eyeballs. I'm going to keep these up here, too. If you want to take a look at these sheets on your way out, there's some really nice little pictures on these. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put Bartram away. Okay? Can I walk you? Can I walk you up and down so people can see you? Let's see if we can do that. I'm just going to... Scientists several years ago did do an experiment where they tested the flight of different birds to see what the sound was like. And the snowy owl came in completely silent as it flew across the room. So owls are really pretty impressive. Isn't he cute? He's so cute. Okay, show off. Yeah. And as long as he's not panting.
He's about the size of a pigeon.
Pigeons can be bigger. Pigeons can be bigger, yeah. I mean, they can be small too, but some of them, oh, he's panting now. He's a little nervous. He's looking, he's like, can I get up there? See? You can put owl boxes on your property. I know, I'm sorry, okay. And just one more, Isn't he lovely? Again, don't let that little tiny size fool you, because he's a fighter. They're great birds. They wouldn't be so numerous if they weren't wonderful predators and wonderful survivors. Okay.
You feed them live food?
No, no. All right, let me put you away. Go ahead, baby. More than happy to go. All right, now I am going to ask you be patient with me. I know you're great. This next bird is heavy. I'm going to do my best to hold her up for a length of time and answer questions, but I think I'm going to actually hold the questions till the end of the presentation entirely. She's pretty heavy, and it may take me a moment or two to be able to get her out of the box. Let me make sure my notes are up for her. Yeah. Okay. So this is a raptor you're all familiar with. You've all seen them flying around. Okay, Mama, hold on. You ready? Come on. Everybody wants to meet you. Come on, please. Oh, come on. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. Shh, 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 shh. Oh, my goodness. I love you so much. So, this is Cyclops. She was named that years and years and years ago. She is missing her left eye. I like to call her Mama, because during the mating season, you can see the strong female energy come out in her. She does have a bonded partner. His name is Nittany. He's back at the Conservancy, so they do live together. But this is a red-tailed hawk, and this hawk is all over. I'm sure you've seen them flying and sitting up in the treetops. I know I see them quite a lot. There's a lot of them in the Lehigh Valley. And in addition to these magnificent birds, you've probably also seen turkey vultures, very common in the sky, although I did see black vultures on my way over here. But the turkey vulture and the black vulture are very common. There are 16 subspecies of red-tailed hawks in North America. And forgive me, but I am going to read my notes while you all take her in. She is increasing in numbers, which is good. They also don't migrate. They're non-migratory. They're going to winter throughout Pennsylvania and North America, and they are residents of at low altitudes. They only migrate at higher altitudes. So especially in the regions where there's prolonged snow. I got to put my arm down. She's very heavy. Forgive me. So she's a year-round resident in Pennsylvania. She can be about 26 inches in body length and have a wingspan of over 4.5 feet. So that's pretty impressive. 5 to 10 years in the wild. In captivity, 25 to 30. She's about, I think, 10 or 12, so we're hoping to have her around for a very long time. She's being a very good girl right now. Unlike the owls, she's a daytime hunter. And you see that look, that serious look on her face? She looks almost, upset. That's actually built in to her skull. So they have this really beautiful built-in ridge. I believe it's, forget what it's called. I'm so sorry. Like a cranial ridge. It's like a built-in baseball cap visor. And that is because they're daytime hunters. It protects their eyes from the sun, the glare of the sun. But that's what gives her and the eagle and some of these other birds that very serious, harsh look, because they have this built-in ridge in their skulls. They are carnivorous and have a very highly variable diet depending on where they live. Again, rodents, chickens, other mammals, other birds, reptiles, and even carrion, although it's not really their thing. She's gonna go, there she goes potty. Something about how adaptive and fantastic the red-tailed hawk is. I want to just mention in Manhattan, they now live, which is unique and I think came as a surprise to people because they're not great maneuvers through highly dense forested areas. You're going to find them up above, they're going to be sitting in the tops of the trees, they're going to swoop down over big open fields and open places like that. But in Manhattan, for some reason, their numbers have really taken off. And now the red-tailed hawk is a bird that you can see in Manhattan, sitting on tops of awnings, on top of roofs, balconies. They have nests, they will build nests. And the reason for that, I like to ask the kids, is why do you think they're in Manhattan? Like, what could Manhattan possibly offer them? Yeah, and pigeons. No offense to the pigeon I brought. There's tons of food for them. And so they've adapted, and they're surviving, and their numbers are actually doing really, really well. So they specialize in stealing prey from other animals, from other birds. And as a matter of fact, they'll steal food from each other. And I've seen her fight for what's in his talons, and he'll come over and try to grab what's in her talons. They have excellent hearing. You have excellent hearing? Yeah. Excellent hearing. And they can see about 8 times that of a human being. So again, football field or greater, bright snow, off in the distance, from up in a tree, she's going to see what that food, she's going to see what she wants, and she's going to go get it. They do hunt, unfortunately for them, along highways, and they're sometimes called roadside hawks. I also think that the red-tailed hawk is the chicken hawk from the cartoons. So I think that was based on the red-tailed hawk. She's also a victim of a vehicle accident. She wasn't driving, but she was hit by another car, and that's how she lost her eye. Her partner is also blind in his left eye. They are one of the largest buteos here in Eastern North America. They perform really beautiful courtship dances in the air. It's hard to ever see that up close and personal, but if you catch some videos of it, it's really lovely. And they do mate for life. They bond and they mate for life. So they can fly about 20 to 40 miles an hour, but when diving, they can reach 120. Yeah. They have a trigger talon. They have a trigger, so they have what we call a ratcheting talon in the back. So she's going to put her front 3 talons down on me, and that 4th one is going to go around the back. But that one locks in. So for instance, if I'm tossing her food, and she flies across the enclosure to grab her food, but she misses, she's going to think there's something in her talon, because that back talon is going to ratchet in. Her brain is going to signal that she's got something, and it's not going to open right away. Only when her brain tells her to release it will it open, and can she drop her food. So yeah, so when the pads of her feet are touched, it's going to trigger and it's going to snap closed. So she can grip at about 200 pounds per square inch, and then which is enough to just kill their prey instantly. Yes. Yeah, I know, baby. Does anybody have any questions about Cyclops? She's a pretty impressive bird. I can, yes, let me turn her around. I know. Now they're not born with that red tail. That red tail develops as they mature. So a juvenile red-tailed hawk will have different colorings, a little lighter, a little bit fluffier. They'll have that little bit of a red, but that red tail doesn't come in until they're an adult. Sort of a rite of passage for them, I suppose. Yes, someone had his hand up.
Yeah, you said you don't have a license to breed them, so do you keep the male and the female apart so they, you know?
No. We, the lovely young woman who runs the animal program at the Conservancy, her name is Haley D'Agostino, and she's wonderful. So she is the one in charge of making sure that the birds know that there's no time for that. So she manipulates the enclosures and to accommodate that. But yeah, and I think over time but she'll build a nest if she gets enough twigs and sticks in her enclosure. She'll at least start to build it. We just try to dissuade that by not allowing that to happen. But it's just built into them too. It's just a natural thing that they want to do. So young hawks, if you see a young hawk, will have a black belly band that my hand, nothing in there. She's going to eat squirrels, cottontail rabbits. She's going to eat voles, white-footed mice, house mice, pigeons, Norway rats, which is what they're going to get in urban areas. Highly opportunistic, and they're going to lay 1 to 3 eggs early spring when they do lay eggs. So again, not a concern. Nobody's worried about their numbers. They're pretty proliferous. And again, we can help protect birds by just keeping the roadways clear, because they really are interested in eating and feeding off of whatever's on the sides of the road. And that's why they're so dangerous. Yeah?
What does she weigh?
That's a good question. I know I said she's heavy, right? She's a little heavier than she should be. I want to say she's 8 pounds on my arm right now. Yeah. Give or take. Okay, you ready to go back? Huh?
Another question?
Oh, yes.
Just, you said about the 200 pounds per pressure. Aren't you ever worried about her doing that to your hand?
I'm not worried about injury from her at all, no. It would be my own error to not have these tethered tightly enough, because then if she picked up her foot, she'd be able to put it down on my arm. So that's the only thing that I have to be aware of. I'm not worried about her crushing my hand because she knows, you know, she's not trying to eat me. Yeah, I mean, and for fighting, they fight with their feet. Birds don't fight with their mouths, at least. I know. At least not, oh, she's just, okay. So now you're showing off, right? Are you showing off? Okay. Yeah, that was something when I first started to train with the birds. I thought to myself, well, this bird's face is 12 inches from my face. Why doesn't she ever, but they don't fight with their beaks, they fight with their feet. So, all right, now you're gonna have to give me a moment. She doesn't want to go back in. Oh, see, now she squeezes. Sometimes she squeezes harder. All right, let's go. Come on. Nope. Okay. Come on, sweetheart, let's go. Thank you.
She wants to stay with you.
She doesn't want to go in the box, that's for sure. Okay, all right. Shh, 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 shh. Okay, thank you so much, sweetheart. All right. Okay, now, the last bird, not a predator. And we've all seen them everywhere. This bird has been living alongside mankind and domesticated for 5,000 years. Hi, are you ready? Let's go. I know. I know. My little pigeon friend. This is Rocky, everybody. And this is a pigeon. This is their food. I'm not literally, but pigeons are extremely, can you turn for me? No, come here. I'm just gonna hold you then, okay? I'm gonna read a little bit about pigeons and I'm gonna hold her and I hold him and I can walk around with him. He's not a problem. So not a bird of prey, native to Eurasia and North America and abundant across the globe. So wherever there are human beings, there's most likely gonna be pigeons. Non-migratory, an excellent food source for more than just birds, but very, very adaptable because despite what we do, this bird survives. And not only have they survived, their numbers are huge. So, I mean, from cities, from the rocky cliffs where they tend to like to live, but they'll eat anything. You'll eat almost anything. They are ground feeders. They are terrible nest builders. They're really bad at it, but they keep trying. And they have an incredible homing ability. I'm sure you all know that about pigeons. One thing that I learned is that they're an invasive species. They're an invasive bird. But the reason why it doesn't matter to us and we're not concerned is because they're not competing with anything here. So I don't think they compete with anybody. So they're not competing with any other birds. They're not stealing anything from any other birds. They're not competing for any plant life or anything like that. They're just, they themselves are just invasive, but they're doing really, really well. So domesticated, like I said, for 5,000 years and used during wartime. The military's used them. Yeah. For sending messages back and forth. And you can see that little tail feather. As I adjust his body, he's going to adjust his balance with that little tail feather. But something else pigeons do that I think people often make fun of, I mean it's like a joke, is they do that head bob thing. Chickens do that too. And the reason why they bob their heads when they walk is because they're keeping the thing they're looking at in focus enough so that when they walk forward, they're not moving their heads. And then as soon as they can, they're going to zoom in They're going to refocus, and then they're going to do it again. And so it happens very fast, but it does look like they're bobbing their heads, and it's just a matter of what they're looking at, adjusting the camera. He's a very pretty pigeon. I believe this pigeon was bred to look like this. I don't know how Rocky came to live with us, but he was somebody's pet. Somebody owned Rocky and probably gave him up, and we came to have him. We have 4 pigeons on our property. They can adapt in nearly any climate. He can fly at about 60 miles an hour. And he's very tough and resilient. So yeah, he has, about the homing ability, they have a way of tuning into Earth's magnetic field. And I think scientists even today are trying to figure that out. I don't think we've really been able to understand that entirely, how these birds are able to do that. They have a crop, which is this little section. Oh, no. I know. No. Rocky, come on. They have a crop in their throats, which is sort of a little gland, a little pocket where their food, their seed is going to go, so that it can break it up for them. It's like a little food processor, and it's going to soften it for them, and then they can make crop milk, and then that's the milk that they would use to feed their babies with. But it also helps. I've also brought the pigeon, you guys, because you can touch the pigeon. So if there's anybody here in the audience who would like to touch the pigeon, you can pet her. So if anybody wants to at the end, you can let me know. I'll keep Rocky out. So Rocky's going to eat seeds and grains. Would you like to pet her? Yes. Pet him? Oh, isn't he soft? Isn't he lovely?
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You are very welcome. Yeah, Rocky didn't seem to mind that either. Does anybody else want to pet Rocky? Now, I will add that birds are reptiles. Reptiles are their closest relative. I probably am obligated to mention you might want to use hand sanitizer. Yes, thank you. Hand sanitizer. Do you have any hand sanitizer? Yeah. Okay. Because they are reptiles. So does any?
A question.
Yeah. Yes.
Are they considered trainable, or is it just they're in? Are they trainable?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Are the other raptors trainable?
Well, sure. Yeah. Absolutely. It takes a lot of work, a lot of hours, and a lot of dedication. But absolutely, 100%. Yes.
If I remember, I watched a special on TV about pigeons and different breeds of species of, and actually there's a club still in England for homing bird pigeons, and this guy runs it in honor of his father, because during World War II, his father was in charge of messengers from the continent to England about troop movements. So, but if I remember the special rate, he said a certain species of or breed of pigeon was for the homing pigeons.
Yes.
And they had to be bred like in England, so they knew where their home was. And that way, when the pigeons would be released in France, they would automatically go back to England. You know, but the guy was specific in saying that a certain breed of pigeon, not all pigeons were homing pigeons.
That might be true. I know our birds, we're not worried about whether they, take an afternoon walk on their own. They will find their way back. And I think it's just a matter of them living somewhere long enough in that location, they'll know where to return to. He was a racing pigeon, I believe. That's the story. I think I remember. Don't quote me. Because people also race pigeons. So I believe maybe he just wasn't fast enough. And whoever had him didn't want to keep him anymore because he wasn't winning any races. I know, so sad. But yeah, that's true. And I don't know what species are the ones that people use specifically for homing. But it is remarkable how these birds can travel the globe knowing exactly where to return to, sending messages. And they've been using that for a long time. I mean, people for a very long time been using these birds to send messages to and from one location to another. So
I have another question.
yes.
Passenger pigeons were eliminated completely. Were they different from what pigeons are left?
Well, so that's a good question. It does say here, they are passerines, and I believe that's the word. But I don't know. I don't think any one species has been obliterated. Any subspecies. I think they survived. I'm not sure, but they are known as passerines. I mean, I have my paperwork here on the rock pigeon. So he's the Columba livia. That's the rock pigeon. I'm not. Forgive me. I am not familiar with the other subspecies, but it does say that all pigeons do have a homing ability and can navigate hundreds of miles back to their home territory, and that we've been using them as spies and messengers and for racing for hundreds of years. So, I'm sorry I don't have more information, but they were introduced in 1606 to the United States from Nova Scotia, so they've been here that long. But they do have a wide, you all familiar with the rock pigeon, it's this blue-gray one. We've all seen this one. But he's no different. He just was bred to look different, or he just turned out different, I should say. Does anybody else want to touch Rocky or pet Rocky? Would you like to pet him? Okay. Poor Rocky.
He's so beautiful.
Well, not yet. You just have to pet him. I'm going to hold him and you can pet his back.
He really is beautiful.
Isn't he? He's lovely.
Hi. How can he be a reptile? You're so cute.
So reptiles are birds' closest relatives. So we believe that feathers are an adapted scale. And if you look at their feet are scaled. And even though they're warm-blooded, we do consider them reptiles. Yeah.
So the chicken, like a chicken, would that be like a reptile too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and put Rocky away unless anybody else wants to.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
On the spectrum of bird intelligence, are the pigeons really at the low end, or is that just a perception?
I guess it depends on your interpretation of intelligence. I imagine the fact that they've survived for 5,000 years around us, and no matter whether we throw power plants or chemicals and pesticides and everything we've done to the environment, we haven't seemed to injure their numbers at all. So, I don't know, intelligent, but survivors? So, yeah. Again, terrible nest builders. Like really bad at it, like on angles. Like they're just not good at it. So I don't know. People do tease that owls really are not wise. That's a myth. But again, I think it really all depends. So yeah. Any more questions? And does anybody have any questions? I hope I've been able to inform you a little bit.
Thank you for a fantastic presentation. I have a question about illness. What kind of illnesses do the birds get, and have you ever had any problems with an avian influenza outbreak in your birds?
So we have not. I don't believe the Conservancy has ever had an avian influenza outbreak. We've had mites on some of the birds, our great horned owl at one time. That's very common from things that fly around and fall through their netted openings. Salmonella would be the only thing that we would want to worry about. But again, they're very clean, you know. It depends on how clean and dirty the birds are. Pigeons are dirty birds, though. Like, their enclosure is cleaned every single day, and you would think that it had been left sitting for the longest time. They are just all over the map with their habits. They're very messy little birds. And so one of the reasons, for instance, that we don't keep his little anklets on him, I have to take these off when I get home, is because they're really messy. And they'll wind up ruining them. So for salmonella's sake, I would be very careful around birds, especially city birds and birds like that. But that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, there's a lot of other bird problems, bird illnesses, but we don't have them. Yeah.
Any more questions? Oh, one more.
What are the licensing requirements, Lisa, for a particular individual? Handle birds, raise birds, train them?
So for birds in general, or? For a bird of prey, well, falconry is a very popular sport out here, and it seems to be a casually popular sport, so I don't think that the licensing to be a falconer is too terribly difficult. But a native animal is illegal to own. So for instance, you cannot have a red-tailed hawk or any of the native animals, because the Pennsylvania Game Commission and the governing bodies won't allow you to do that. So, and then it depends on what you're doing. Is it a sport? Are you breeding them? Are you selling them? And so it just kind of gets more complicated depending on what it is you're using them for. We have a license to house them, but we are visited, and our facility is looked at, and it's checked out, and everybody wants to make sure we're treating them well, and they're housed well, and they're clean, and they're cared for. But other than that, we have no interest at all in taking licensing for breeding or anything like that. No, because we're not hunting with them. Yeah. If you want to hunt with your bird, I think it's different. Hawk Mountain would have a lot of great answers for that. I'm sorry, I don't. Yeah.
How is it different from what we see in our backyards? The mourning dove?
Oh, they're the same bird.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're the same bird. As a matter of fact, I think I have something here I want to just read. Yeah, so this is the rock pigeon is one of two columbid birds, so pigeons/doves that are found in Pennsylvania. The smaller tan-colored mourning dove, and then the native dove called the rock dove. So yeah, Rocky is a dove. So yeah. Thank you, you guys. I hope I served you all well. I hope.
One last question.
If I wanted to visit your place,
Yes.
what can I expect to see there? I mean, are these birds going to be in cages?
Yes, so from one of our trails, the only birds that are visible from one of our trails would be our peregrine falcon. We have a peregrine falcon, Carson. And next door, living in the condominium to his left, would be our great horned owl. And then next to the great horned owl, we have our two red-tailed hawks that you'd be able to see very clearly. And then next to the red-tailed hawks, we have our two vultures. We have a turkey vulture and a black vulture. Those are the only birds that are visible from the trail. The screech owl is housed away from viewing eyes, as are the barred owls and the pigeons. Our crow is sometimes out. You can sometimes see him. He has an outdoor enclosure as well, but he spends the night inside.
So why are these particular birds contained?
Well, they have a really lovely enclosure. I don't know if it happened to be the way the architecture of the property worked and where we got to house them. But the birds, the large birds, they have very large outdoor enclosures. And so we couldn't accommodate that for every single bird that we had. I think you can probably get a peek at the pigeons, but they have the door is not facing the trail. That's the only difference, yeah. I don't think there was anything more to the reasoning except that It just happened to be where the enclosures were. Yeah. All right, I'm going to put Rocky away. I think Rocky's interested in going away. I do hope that I gave a fine enough presentation for y'all. I do appreciate being here and being able to do this.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Given the fact that we had such technical difficulties, I had my concerns, but we had nothing to be concerned about. You did a marvellous job,
I
so
hope
thank
so.
you very much indeed. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Thank you,
And
folks.
Lisa has brought some information about the Wildlands Conservancy right here. If you want to pick anything up, you're welcome to do so. Okay, thank you again for coming out. There are still a number of programmes in our Eventful Living catalogue going through to June. If you don't already have a copy, please pick one up on your way out. And I am currently working on July through December for the new catalogue. So you can be watching for that coming your way towards the middle of June. Alrighty, thank you again for coming out, everyone. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you. Please come look at the skulls. They're pretty interesting.